Constructed in 1974, the specific aircraft, construction number 193 Echo 1067, entered service in March of that year with none other than Air Canada, bearing the original registration Charlie Foxtrot Tango November Juliet. Later it was briefly leased to Air Lanka for a few weeks in February 1982, re-registered as 4 Romeo Tango November Juliet. After its short island stint, it returned to Air Canada until it was retired and placed into storage at Marana in November 1990. 2 years later, in May 1992, the TriStar's second life began. Snatched up by Orbital Sciences Corporation, its registration changed to November 140 Sierra Charlie. To turn an airliner into a spaceship carrier, they contracted Marshall Aerospace, a British maintenance and design company famous for making some of the most fascinatingly random modifications in aviation history. They were the same mad scientists behind the Royal Air Force's L1011 tanker conversions. Marshall was tasked with a wild objective: modify this commercial giant to carry Pegasus, the world's first privately developed orbital launch vehicle. Before picking the TriStar, Orbital evaluated the Boeing B-52, the 747 and the McDonnell Douglas DC-10, weighting altitude performance, modification cost and structural limitations. So why did the L-1011 beat out the cheaper DC-10 and the massive 747? It all comes down to its dual keel beams. A keel beam is the heavy-duty longitudinal backbone running along the bottom of a plane's fuselage. It provides rigidity, transfers aerodynamic loads and absorbs energy during landings. While standard airliners use a single central keel beam, the Lockheed L-1011 TriStar uniquely utilized two parallel keel beams. This quirk of Lockheed engineers solved three catastrophic problems for carrying a rocket. The fin obstruction. Pegasus features a massive rigid top vertical fin. To mount the rocket flush against the belly for aerodynamics, that fin has to protrude upward into the fuselage. You cannot cut a hole through a central keel beam. You just can't. The L-1011's parallel beams left a perfect unobstructed channel right down the middle. Ground clearance. Without the channel, mounting the rocket below a central keel beam would slam it way too close to the tarmac, destroying ground clearance and making landing system impossible to integrate. The central line advantage. Trying to offset the rocket to the side of a single keel beam introduces severe structural, aerodynamic and asymmetric weight penalties. Central line mounting is far superior and the L-1011 made it easy. Deep modifications. With the airframe selected, November 140 Sierra Charlie became a literal airborne miniature launchpad via some massive overhauls. Structural reinforcement. Engineers heavily fortified the aircraft with custom doublers, strengthening ribs and reinforcing the keel beams at the center wing box to handle the brutal aerodynamic stress of a mid-air rocket drop. The launch console. The passenger cabin was completely gutted. In place of standard seating, they installed a dedicated payload operation center where crew members actively monitor the rocket's telemetry and trigger the launch sequence. Auxiliary support. Internal bays were fitted with specialized air conditioning, nitrogen purge system and power hookups to keep the satellite payload alive and happy during the climb. Upgraded engines. In 2010, the aircraft was re-engined with more powerful Rolls-Royce RB.211 524 turbofans, generating 100 pounds of thrust each. Fun fact, these engines were sourced directly from the surplus parts market of retired L-1011 500 series commercial airliners. Named Stargazer, the plane supported its first Pegasus mission on June 27, 1994, for the maiden flight of the Pegasus XL. Earlier standard Pegasus launches actually used NASA's famous B-52 named Bowls 8. Why? Because the original standard Pegasus rocket didn't have enough physical clearance to drop safely from the L-1011. It wasn't until April 1995, when the hybrid Pegasus introduced canted fins to clear the belly, that Stargazer took over the project completely. Why build Stargazer instead of just keeping the B-52? Two reasons. First, Bowls 8 was government property, it belonged to NASA, and was constantly booked for other experimental space projects. Stargazer was entirely corporate-owned and available on demand. Second of all, on the B-52 the rocket was wing-mounted. That asymmetric weight introduced severe structural, aerodynamic and asymmetric weight penalties. Over the decades, Stargazer evolved. It was repainted in 2015 for Orbital 80K and again in 2018 after Northrop Grumman bought the company. Between rocket launches, it's periodically charted for high-altitude research capable of hauling a 51,000-pound payload up to 42,000 feet. Since 2016, Pegasus has only flown 3 times, with its last mission all the way back in June 2021 for TAC L2. But despite the long gaps, Northrop Grumman kept both rocket and the plane entirely flight-ready. A latest Pegasus launch is scheduled for mid-2026, on June 30th to be exact, but nature had other plans. Unfavorable weather pushed it to July 1st, and just hours ago a subsequent weather delay pushed it to July 2nd. Depending on where you are watching this video in the world, today or if you're in Europe tomorrow on July 3rd, you'll be watching the rescue mission to save Swift Space Telescope from burning up in Earth's atmosphere.